Hi, Reinhard. Welcome back to another exciting session. How are you today?
Hello, I'm fine. It's evening here, very dark outside, and I'm looking forward to our talk.
Yeah, actually, it's again, I mean, I think this is probably your 10th session together, maybe more. I stopped counting. But the journey we started early this year, we created so many great artifacts which are being used by a lot of people, and they're benefiting from this. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and you're learning whatever you learned in your life, past life, or this life, and helping other project managers, program managers to get to do what they should be doing. Because everybody thinks they have a learning, they have, many times we don't realize the potential. And when we talk to other people, other expert, and if they are looking into you and your side, they can find the real potential in you. So thank you for partner in the journey. I'm very excited to have you again and again.
Thank you, and it's also a journey with you because you are also teaching. You're doing your PgMP and PfPM and so on. So I think you also have a lot to share. So let's start the dialogue. What is the topic of today, right?
Topic of today is very interesting, change management. So change is everywhere. We know that change, in organization, small project, big project. People talk about agile transformation, digital transformation, or bringing new tools, new technology, or whenever we bring new technology, new change, and something is changing. Sometimes we are challenging the status quo. That's a change, but how do we deal with this change is very, very important. Structured way, so that we can predict the result. We can see how this change will impact the people, process, and the organization. And that's what we're going to talk today, to make sure we have identified the required steps, and we have a plan, we have a structure, we have a stakeholder engagement, and get the result what we're looking for in the shortest time.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think during this pandemic, and also now in the aftermath of the pandemic, we see quite a lot of significant change going on. It's on the societal level, and we talked about that, but it's also for many organization companies right now a very important time, because they need to cope with the demand, the new demand of the customers. For example, in automotive industry here, it's changed towards electricity and electrical cars, and the whole infrastructure will change. And also the ways we do projects change quite significantly. So I'm working with construction companies. They even use agile approaches like the last planner approach of lean construction. So it means also a change of behavior. How do you do your work? And speaking through virtual means like MS Teams or Zoom or others, it's also totally different working together. It also means if you start in the morning, you do not need to travel to your office. You just need to organize yourself, go to your home office, walk a few meters, or let's say a few steps. But that also has a lot of change to come, because otherwise you are just sitting the whole day, just looking into this laptop. And that also means we need to be careful of our body, of our health, also our psychological conditions. So I think it's a time of big change for all levels in our society, as individuals, organizations, that's also the society at large.
Yeah, I think you're right. There are different type of changes. One of that change we can predict, we can plan accordingly. And the change we have seen, or organization has to change, adapt very fast because of environmental change, like COVID. Nobody has predicted back in, think about January 2020, things are going so smoothly, everything was happy. Yes, we do hearing some noise, some news about China getting some impact, and later Iran, and then Italy, and but suddenly we realize that it's going to impact whole world. The way we are working in offices, the meetings are happening in closed doors are not going to happen anymore. Yes, next we have seen that last almost 2 years now, things have changed drastically, and we cannot think about going back to the same way of doing things. We are so used to of this new way of doing things, sitting here and in a room, in your air-conditioned room, or in garage. If we talk about my sitting in the garage, but you don't travel, and you correctly mentioned there's the impact as well, side effect. Yes, you can save money on travel. You don't have to travel anymore, petrol, and also the time you save. But the side effect is you don't go outside of house, and you stay in the room in front of computer whole day with no exercise, no movement, and with looking at the screen all the time. So you don't have social connections anymore, maybe minimum. So that is also a very big impact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And but if you're speaking through that change that we are seeing, maybe sometimes it's good that we have something unexpected happening, because that helps us to overcome those barriers that we have in our mind. Because I still remember in the years before the COVID pandemic, people were saying, "Oh, virtual meeting, that's not for me," or not traveling to a meeting in the US, "Oh, that's not for me, so I go shopping during Christmas in New York or something." So and nowadays it's pretty normal that we speak like via virtual tools, and we just had today a discussion that I think the business travels will not be on the same level like before COVID, because now we have experienced that. And so sometimes an external stimulus is good for a change, because the people understand, okay, yeah, they understand the rationale, and they also experience it's not that difficult to use MS Teams or Zoom, and just they try it and they say, okay, we can continue that way. So sometimes it's good.
Exactly. So, and you said, there's a new technology. Sometimes we are resistant to the technology and we take time to adapt. But if the situation happens, we are forced to adapt. And then you realize, hey, it's not too bad. So if we can bring this kind of mentality in our project or program changes, many times what we do, we bring in building a new platform, new service, and we expect that the stakeholder will adapt as it is. It's a great tool. It's doing a lot of things, and they will see the benefit and they will use it. Actually, we're wrong. And people are so comfortable in their using those old technology, maybe Excel spreadsheets and manual way of doing things, and they feel actually threatened. Hey, if I have this automated tool or system, it will actually impact my job. I may not have job, or I may have to learn the new technology. I'm not young man anymore, young man or boy, a girl anymore. So I will struggle and have to compete with young people. They are very smart. So all these thoughts actually make them nervous.
Yeah, I think it was Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. She was speaking about this theory of how do we deal with something unexpected. And in the first phase, I think it's kind of a denial. So if we want to have a new technology, let's say in the beginning of the smartphones, many of people also in my age, they said, okay, I don't like that. And maybe they are also in a kind of an anger. No, I stick to my old habits, and I feel it's the comfort zone that we are in. And sometimes it's really difficult to get them out of this kind of long, deep valley of ignorance. But then if you show them, yeah, it's not that difficult, try it, have the first chance to use such a handheld. And they say, oh, it's not that difficult. And there are some nice features, or I can even go to the internet via my handheld. And so through this kind of trial and step by step, they find, it's acceptable. At least, okay, I can live with it. and maybe you get some enthusiast out of that. So it's going maybe to the next level. And I think that that curve is very, at least to me, very influential in thinking of how do we manage change also in our projects, that we need to always deal with this curve that Elisabeth Kubler-Ross defined. So this denial and finally coming to the acceptance. So we need to do something about it.
So think about if I, one fine day, let's say go back 7, 8 or 10 years, 12 years, when iPhone was introduced, and I know you were my good friend, I'm gifting you iPhone 3. And you say, hang on, I don't like this. And this is a very costly phone. No, I'm okay with my Nokia, brick phone, which is good. I can talk to my family. I can send SMSs, and you may not like it. But and you said you're denying this, and so no, I insist that you have to use it. Let's say if I'm a company manager, and I want my team to use that phone, and I'm saying, it's a great feature. Everybody has to use it. So the force is coming from top down. So many people resist that kind of behavior. They said, okay, I'm so used to using this Nokia phone. I don't know how this is going to work, whether it will recognize my finger or my face, because nowadays we have a face recognition, face and all kind. Their fear, and because it's coming from organization leaders, leaders have, they have intention to make the organization more beneficial. People have better lifestyle, all kind of things. So they sometimes bring the change and implement without considering how these people will accept the change.
Yes.
And that is where the role of change management team or project managers come in place.
Absolutely. And I'm of the opinion that you cannot push people in a change. So you need to pull them. And I think also in the new PMBOK version 7, there's this principle of change. And there's one tool mentioned that we also at Tiba use very intensively. It's ADKAR. It's a model from Prosci, which is a US-based change management institute. And the A, the first letter, is for awareness. So we need to build the awareness of why is that change right now needed or necessary. Why is maybe it is useful for the organization. What is our vision? What is our ambition in using this new handheld, for example, or this new IT tool and so on? So that's the first step. So if the people understand why we are doing it, it's much easier for them to, okay. But then the second letter is the D, that's for desire. So they need to understand what's in for me. Because if you just speak the language of we want to have more ROI and it's good for the company, I think that will not be a pull for the people. So you need to, create that desire in the people to say, okay, you can learn it. You're the first one. You're the first mover. You can call your whatever aunt in Australia and so on. And so. And then also the K is knowledge, ADKAR. So knowledge and ability is the fourth letter. It means you need to also build a bridge. So how do you do the change? And maybe accompany and coach them through that first steps. Because I think the first steps are the most important one, but also the most difficult ones. Mm. And if you support that kind of change activity, I think then it's much easier for them on the Kubler-Ross curve to come to an acceptance and just do it. And if you get them into the first steps of this acceptance curve, it's much easier. The last letter is also a very important one. It's reinforcement, R. So it means that as soon as you stop supporting people in that change, they will fall back into their old habits. Yeah. So it's very important that you, let's say, on a continuously basis, support them in using and applying that, and maybe also have checkpoints where you check whether they still use it. And after a while, then I think it should be the routine now, and then you can let them do it or let them do it on their own. But that's why I believe this ADKAR tool or approach is very helpful for every project manager to guide people through that kind of change, right?
Yeah, perfect. That's good. Very good way of showing this the whole life cycle. And I like the second part with desire, generating the desireness in the stakeholders' mind. If, as I said earlier, like if we impose something, people resist. If we get them to ask you for the change, then the job is done. So I'll give one example here. Let's say it's a personal example where I was moving from Australia to US. After living in Australia for 22 years, never thought I'm going to move out. It's a big change for me as well. But I'm asking my son, who's in 10th grade, to leave his 10th class, 10th grade in Australia. And Australia is 6 months ahead. He was already 6 months ahead. Now he has to come back 6 months and to start again the class 10. And it's a big thing. Now, yes, he agreed that, yes, I will go to US. First of all, he was not agreeing. Now he agreed, but he said, I will go to US only if you go to this particular city, Bay Area. In those days, he has a mind of, business person and kind of thing. I want to go to the Bay Area. I was thinking to go somewhere middle Texas or somewhere, but yes, I agree. It's because the change coming from him. If I took him forcefully to other part, let's say Texas, then things can be different. Then when he decided, okay, Bay Area, and he did his research about schools, and he said, look, I want you to go to this school, particular school, Cupertino. And I know Cupertino being the most costly place, and the school he's talking about is one of the top schools. And he was not at that level when he was in Australia. But if I wanted to put him to that in that class, in that school, it can be a disaster. But because the change is coming from him, he's asking for the change. That was a big thing. I said, you know what? I don't care about, yes, cost is there. And, because he's asking for that, he will adopt by himself. Absolutely. The change is coming from a stakeholder.
Yes, the matter of motivation. And you can always go the extra mile if it is a motivation, an intrinsic motivation, not an extrinsic motivation. And I was also changing school because in the what we call it's kind of a high school level. I was very unhappy at that school, and I wanted to change to a, let's say, more technical high school, because I was very much interested in technology and IT and electronics, etc. And by just switching from one to the other school, my grades went up significantly. I really had fun. It was more hours, also a lot of traveling to go to that school, but I did not care about that one. It was just the motivation to learn something meaningful, have a purpose, and just follow that purpose. So I think that's desire, is always motivation, finding your own purpose and so on. And it's much easier to do that change than.
Yeah. And sometimes if you can bring, we use that in the, you probably know, negative psychology. When the child is growing up, if we tell them, tell the child, like, you cannot do this. We challenge that, it's impossible for you to do that. If the child has taken the challenge, and then he can do it. That's how we encourage. So in our real life, when we have a change in the organization, we do see these kind of challenges. And some people, unless we challenge them, they will not do it. So, I read a story when I was in school about this guy who has to paint his fence. His mother is telling him, you have to do this, you're a very lazy boy and this and that. And on one fine Sunday, he decided, I will do it. But he don't want to do it by himself. So his friends one of the friends asking him, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing very important job. It's one of the most important job. I'm loving this. I'm very excited. And his friend said, oh, can I try this? No, it's only for expert. You need to have, this, and what if I give you my apple? Oh, yeah, okay, I will let you do that. Then this guy is doing, and he's having fun and eating apple, and that's how he got his fence done. So
I think there's a very important principle. because in change literature, there's a lot of talk about overcoming resistance towards change. And what is resistance? Actually, it's energy of people because they have some interest, some motivation in a certain direction. And if you do not take that kind of interest seriously in that change project or program, I think they will show resistance, because the resistance is just, let's say, a symptom of, hey, take me serious, talk to me. I have solutions in mind. So now imagine if all that talk about resistance would disappear, if we just let the people participate and join in making that change a good change, also a good change for them. And that's exactly this desire. Let them play out their desire, and the change will be very, very successful, maybe even more than you expected it to be. And so I think personally, there is no real resistance. Resistance is just a symptom of that you did not engage people in that change project like you should.
Yeah, and yeah, resistance is there many times because it is changing the way they were doing the work. Suddenly they have to do differently. Maybe the age factor, maybe their motivation level, they have a fear factor that, you know, my job is gone, or everything becomes so automatic. I don't fit in the new model, and so and so. So they start resisting, even though they never resist in life, but they start seeing the change is impacting them personally. So I think that's where the project manager or program manager come use some of the technology, some tools and techniques coming from literatures we have read from PMI or ipma to stakeholder identification, stakeholder analysis, and we have a stakeholder engagement plan. You identify all the stakeholders, positive and negative, doesn't matter, and categorize them, identify them, categorize them, and some of them are very supportive because they're fed up of these old technology. They don't want to use it anymore. They wanted to see their organization growing. So they are very positive. They are actually leaders for you. And there's a group of people, their stakeholder, they are going to assist no matter what you do. So you identify them as well. And in between, there's a group of people, they are sitting on the fence. They don't mind going either side, but the problem is they don't know enough about the change. If you come to me, hey, this is a change. If I don't understand, I don't care. I don't see any impact. But if you give me more information, I will be in favor. If I see some threat to myself, then I will be other side. So in the change management, I think identify these three categories is very important. The positive people, they already aligned with you. So keep them informed, excited, The third group, which is assisting, you should talk to them and you give them enough information, but don't spend too much time, too much energy on them. But the middle group, maybe the largest group, this is the group of people, stakeholder you have to work on. Give them enough information, motivate them, take them through training, handhold them, encourage them so that they find that the change is not impacting them and actually that's beneficial to them. So by this process, you actually moved majority of stakeholder towards the positive direction. There will be some handhold, some group of people, 10%, 20%. They either start moving toward the positive side or they start leaving the organization or start. Yeah, so I think, the identification of stakeholder and working with them.
I think if we look into the standards, like the new version of the PMBOK version 7, there are some principles of change and adaptability and resiliency, and so also in the ipma competence baseline version 4, you will find a competence element called change and transformation. So it's now more and more accepted that change is part of project management. I always say it's the two sides of the medal. Because through projects, we do something new, something innovative, and that means also change for people behavior, for organizational structures, and let's say also maybe new strategic direction setting. On the other hand, change requires also, let's say, someone that organizes, orchestrates change. And that's typically the role of a project manager or the project management team. So I think it's a good symbiosis to have this kind of project and change management all together. So nowadays, I'm just working with 2 or 3 companies at the moment. And if I look into their WBS, I say, where is your work package on change management? Then they say, there's communication.
Yeah.
Say, okay, but so what do you do? Yeah, we inform them. We send some newsletters out to the people. And I say, come on, that is not change management. That's a unidirectional communication, or even just information sending. So we should go beyond that thinking of change management. It's just to keep people informed. And you use the term of stakeholder engagement. That means participation. That means a real dialogue. So 2 ways, bidirectional. And it means also to take the people or respect people seriously. So what they have to say, and make them part of that journey in that project or program. And that is change management, or like Prosci is saying, the people side of change. And I think that's what many project managers really need to learn. It's also my learning field, because I'm an electrical engineer by education. And in that studies, you never heard something about psychology and sociology and things like that. So I think that's for many project managers in the technical area, a big learning field, right?
Exactly. So as a project manager, you have to understand the change management, and you have to understand stakeholder management, engagement, don't call management, engagement, and emotional intelligence. That's very, very important. You know, what they're thinking. If I'm in their shoes, what is my reaction? If they're reacting this way, that's quite natural, because it is impacting their life, their, you know, their families. So what, as a project manager, program manager, I can do to make their journey smoother and take them through the whole process of change management. And, you know, impact is everybody feeling impact, but minimize the impact of them. Sometimes by talking, communicating, and sometimes having discussion with them, listening to them. So listening is very, very important skill of a project manager. Not just, as you mentioned, should not be one-way stream that I'm saying this is going to happen. Listen to them. They can give you some idea. And when you start engaging with them, when they start sharing, and you can adopt yourself, and the results can be very, very different. Not just you have to do my way or highway. No, let's get together. How can we go together on the journey and have everybody and most of them
following that line of argument, it may also change the way we do projects. Because if I'm listening to what you say, it means engaging them means we need to have sprints, we need to have iterations. I work with them on, let's say, minimal viable product. So that's closer to the agile way of working, because it's more self-organization, it's more engaging. Then we start with a big plan over the next 3, 4, 5 years. We did not ask them whether they find these plans good. And then you are already in a confrontation. So I think change projects should really involve people already the planning. And they should be more on a short-term cycling or iteration to see whether it's the right direction, also that they have a say in the direction. And it may mean that you may change also direction in that project from what you already originally intended to something else, because the people want it that way. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think very important that, yes, we start with the plan with adaptability. And, you know, in Agile, we have a PI planning where you get together. This is what you're going to do in the next 2 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever time. And then once it's done, you got a minimum viable product. Then get together. Hey guys, how was this? You know, listen to them. What worked, what didn't work. And, you know, in that way, and actually it's not just a simple exercise of you tell us what worked, what didn't work. Actually see what we can do, improve it, or what improvement we can make for the next iteration or the next part of the project. So you have involved them in making the change. and the change possibly coming from them. Now, if you are asking, like, hey guys, after discussion with you and after talking to the management, I think this is the, this is how we should take the next step, and they will be very happy with that.
Absolutely, and that again changes the way of leadership, because the role of the leader is not to go into micromanagement and show every nitty-gritty step in a project, but show more the direction. Let's say give a framework, provide the space for the team to maneuver, and then from time to time, sure, maybe provide feedback whether the direction is correct, or and support and coaching and again direction setting. So I think the role of leadership in projects or programs that have a big change portion is so important.
Yeah, and many times, organizations are facing problem, like they have gone from typical, traditional waterfall project management to agile way of doing things. So now teams are doing great. They have so many agile teams are happening. They are doing what they're supposed to do. But now executives have not changed. Their mindset is still as previously. They expect you as the project manager, you provide me a status report and in this format and this kind of thing, and I like to see this information. So they're thinking that way, but the team has changed. So while we're talking about changing the mindset of the doers, we need to have a program, projects, to train them as well, to the executives as well. Their mindset also has to change as we are moving to the new direction. You cannot stay the same the way I was. Now we have to think about that as well.
Absolutely, and this is why we at Tiba support many organizations in that change through coaching. I think coaching is getting very important for, let's say, supporting teams in that transition. It may be called an agile coach or business coach or whatever. So it's not so much about an individual or personal coaching, but it's to help them to do the transition by asking the right questions, giving them also kind of feedback where they see, okay, am I on the right track, or do I maybe need to question my own behavior in that sense? And that's also what an organization can do in general, to support teams through coaching. And that is more powerful than just giving them an order or just simply a direction, say, okay, go in that way, but not helping the team to achieve that.
I think that role itself is very, very important. Having a coach, with agile coach, and if we're talking agile transformation and business coach, so or any other type of coach. So yes, you have implemented new change. It's all gone good, but we need to make sure we are sustaining the change. And to sustain the change, we need to have right SMEs as coaches along with the team to keep them, keep directing them, or not directing, but work with them so that they are all motivated, excited, doing the right things, better way of doing things, and still getting and they are improving. When we made the change, we may not get the success. Let's say agile, new way of doing. Initially, you may not find the expected result. You have lots of problem, lots of people problem, and many things. But the purpose of this coach is to see what is working, not working, and what else they can do to be better in the next project, next program. And that's a continuous process.
Yeah, it's maybe guidance is the right word. You said, okay, not directing, yes. Direct. So it's also the choice of our words that show also a kind of mindset that we have. And I think change is a big theme right now in the whole project management area. And you also avoided the term management. And I think that's also right. I'm struggling more and more with the term management because it shows a bit the attitude or let's say also the mindset of I can manage people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we can manage people. That's more a command and control attitude. That's also kind of we administer people. So it's not the right word. And on the other hand, I also struggle with the term resources if we talk about people. And I think we need to also be very careful about the language that we use in speaking about change and transformation, because the terminology exposes our way of thinking. And so we need also to look into the standards and the guides, whether they use the right terminology that is appropriate to that environment that we are working in, right?
Yeah, so when you read in the standard for program management or PMBOK, previously they were calling stakeholder management, and now the shift is to call it stakeholder engagement. So as you correctly mentioned, you need to identify the stakeholder. You can understand their concerns and expectation. So you can manage that part. You can do something to manage, give them the best product, best engagement, understand their concern. So this way we are engaging. But if you think that we're going to manage, people resist immediately. If you just say, okay, I mean, this is a change, you have to do it. That, as you said, command attitude, which was previously, most organizations was like that. As a manager, you just command and people have to follow. But now the word of change moved out of that mindset. If you try to command somebody, people resist. You will not able to. People move on, find new jobs, go out. But here, this is where the leaders or the managers, project managers, has to be careful. You have to work with them, understand their concern, understand the expectation, and have an engagement plan. How I'm going to make sure the engagement going to be successful, and measure it. It's not just to deliver. You make sure you have some metrics around that. How my engagement is working? Is it giving us expected result? Whether they're listening, and they may stop listening to you, maybe because of anything. But you find out, hey, how many people are actually opening my email? Now there we have technology which can tell us out of 100 emails you send, 5 people open that, and they probably put in the trash. And if that's the case, then you have to see what is, why is people doing that? Maybe they see you, different person than what they're expecting. Maybe your language is not right. Maybe you may have to make your communication more interesting, engaging.
Yeah, and that's the point. Management assumes that the manager knows what is the best for the people in the team or in that environment. And I believe the project leader or whatever their role is called is more facilitator. It is someone that is networking, that is visionary, because you need to be communicating an attractive case. Should be a purpose behind what you do in that project. And if that's attractive, like you said, people will automatically engage, because if it's attractive to them, they will voluntarily come. And that's what we see in voluntary clubs or networks. If you have a compelling case, a purpose, people will voluntarily do everything. They spend a lot of time, and it's pretty easy for you because you do not need to pull them in. They do it automatically, and you just facilitate dialogues or guide them in a certain direction, or support them if they struggle with a certain circumstance in that. And that's very powerful. And but it starts with the attitude and also the language we use and how we talk to people. So let's start with a correct or a better terminology. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, one of the important thing you mentioned, visionary. So as a leader, you should be able to show them, and you should have a clear picture in your mind. This is current state, and this is going to be future state, and how it's going to look like, how people are going to benefit, happy, not happy, whatever it is. And that picture should be very clear to you. And when you're talking to your team members, your stakeholder, engaging with them, you can show them. And that is where they get motivated. If the picture is clear, they can see their contribution to the picture, they are motivated. And sometimes it can be, very early stage, and you want to change the world, but you have to take one step at a time. If I give my example, as you mentioned earlier, that I am leading in the project PgMP space and PfMP space, and if I go back around 2009, 2007 when PMI started PgMP. 2009, I got involved as started working with Dr. Ginger Levine, probably know her, and she encouraged me, motivated me, and I got my PGMP. But the problem was, the good thing that I was eighth person of eighth PgMP from Australia, and I think 200 something or 400 something that time. It was very new. Nobody was talking about PgMP. And I have something in my mind. I want to become a trainer or mentor, guide, whatever. But I could have started with PMP. It was very popular. But I decided, because I thought I can see the picture of the PgMP will be the future for the program managers. In those days, a lot of assistance from family. Nobody was, I'm calling people after calling, hey, join my call, listen to me, free call, I'm giving them free training and everything. So it was not working. The moment I start showing them, when I start writing blogs and everything, now I start showing them the value of this training and how this training or the new certificate or learning will help them to grow into the future, then I can see the change.
Yeah. So you were thinking about them and their desires. That's what we call emotional intelligence or empathy. If you change perspective, I mean, if you respect the needs of the customer or the let's say the people in the training, it's much easier than if you say, okay, I want to be trainer, I want to deliver my speech and everything. But yeah, where's the point?
Doesn't work that way.
But it's sometimes really difficult, and it also requires a change of our own way of thinking, that we just change perspective and think from the other side.
And very important, when you go back to the visionary, that the vision has to be very clear, with no doubts in your mind, where other people, your family, your managers, your colleagues, they don't believe in that, but you are strong in vision, and only you are the person believe in that. And if you keep strongly believing in that, you keep pushing that, take one step at a time, the things will start moving. It's like a big rock in front of you, and you have to push it. It's very huge. Everybody thinks that it's very too much for you, but if you keep pushing, maybe you moving by very slightly, but slowly you find that the rocket moved and you have an open world for waiting for you. That's where the change happens, big change happens.
It's a very interesting topic, this change management. I think we could talk hours and hours about it.
Exactly.
But I find it's a good time to talk about change management and change and transformation, because it is the time of change and transformation right now. And if you look into topics like new work, work autonomy, home office, virtual work, global virtual teams, and so on, there's a lot of change going on. And I think it is good that we as project manager are, let's say, promoters and also supporters of change, and we should put ourselves more in the shoe of our society and help society to change towards CO2 neutrality and support that climate change, because I think there we can play out our skills as project managers.
Great stuff. So today we talked about a few things, including the structure change, which is happening in most of the organization because of we want to organizational leaders think the way we are to the future state, and a few things like because of environmental factor we have to change, adopt very, very fast, and it's happening now because of COVID. And the third thing is we talked about the personal change or a visionary. You have taking your life from here to the future. I think this is another topic for discussion for another topic. We can keep talking about that, but there are various change: organizational change, environmental change, personal change, and many other change. So everything is start with where we are, where we want to go. If you have a clear path, you will be there. Yeah,
like our life.
Yeah, exactly. So connect your project program and see how you can bring that in your life, and that's where the change happens. So great stuff. Thank you very much, Reinhard. It's a really wonderful talking with you. The topics we are bringing, or you're talking your knowledge and experience, your working experience with so many companies and with so many clients you have. So all this is adding value to this discussion. I'm happy that working with you, and it's coming out really good. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you for your time, and see you next week.
Thank you.